Cassidy Hubbarth, Dusty Dvoracek, Mark Sanchez, and we're now welcomed by our college football writer, Bill Connelly, who has an article on ESPN.com right now called The 25 Most Important Players in the College Football Playoff Chase. And Bill, in looking at this article, you have a list 25 to 1, but then within the list, you have different categories. Can you explain your criteria here?
Yeah, so the general idea was basically we know who the best players are right now, or who we think are the best players right now. And I wanted to try to take a look at, number one, who the guys who could take a big leap forward and end up the year being in that list. And number two, the guys who are going to define the season, just for the games they might win or the way they might perform. So that was the general premise. There were categories, guys who just might take a huge leap, guys who could pull a big upset, things like that.
But ultimately, you had Kellen Mond at the number one position. Why?
Primarily because he could both take a big leap and pull multiple upsets because A&M played so many good teams. It does seem like, his performance against Clemson last year, his performance in key moments against LSU, especially in the overtimes, he showed very, very high upside. He's got a nice receiving core, and he could absolutely lead a top 10 team, beat one of the top 5 teams, beat another one of the top 5 teams, and really make a mark on the season.
So, Mark, given Bill's criteria, who jumps out to you as the most important player in the college football playoff chase?
I was looking at the quarterback from Nebraska, Martinez. I'm just intrigued by this article and your deep dive. Talk to me about his connection to Mackenzie Milton and Scott Frost, that whole triangle there.
Yeah, it's been really easy to assume a Mackenzie Milton-like leap just because of who he's coached by, and that might be a very fair assumption. But if he does, obviously he showed flashes last year.
Sure.
If he takes a step forward in his development, Nebraska could, among other things, at least have the best offense in the Big Ten West, one of the best offenses in the country. And I don't know if I trust their defense enough to treat them as a true contender.
Sure.
They could be a Big Ten contender. They could pull upsets as well.
They're one of my sleepers, so this article helped out a lot. Thank you.
That's right.
So he's a quarterback, so he's going to ask you about
of course.
That's all everybody knows about. But I'm going to ask you about a defensive player. How about Penn State? I called a couple of their games at the end of the year. Micah Parsons was a linebacker that I saw on your list that I think could have a breakout season.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously he came with lots of blue chip hype to begin with, but you watched his development from September to November. He's super athletic, super smart, and I was basically in the kind of transcendence category looking for guys who could pull a Josh Allen, pull an Ndamukong Suh from back in 2009. And he absolutely belongs on that list because if he is as good as we think he could be, that's a top 5 defense on paper. And Penn State doesn't need as much from their offense at this point to become pretty big contenders themselves.